This meeting is being live streamed. By staying in this meeting, you consent to being live streamed. Anyone with access to the live stream, got it.
Do I click my got it?
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This meeting is being live streamed. By staying in this meeting, you consent to being live streamed. Anyone with access to the live stream, got it. I think you should. Okay, now what I've got to do is
Water.
I'm going to click that off. Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello. This is Georgia Marantos and Angela McGee. We are live on YouTube via Zoom. This is the first time I've done it, and it is the first time that I have ever had somebody who is as wildly internationally celebrated as Angela McGee. And bear with me while I will give her a big introduction as soon as I am able to put our Zoom on that is on YouTube. I want to put it on Facebook so that people can see that we're live. And so please excuse me while I do that. And in the meantime, I'm going to admit some people who've been faithfully waiting. So everybody's joining in. I am admitting people. Now I'm hoping this is live, so I need to double check that I didn't click private. There we go.
I got a thing that said this is being live streamed.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so I'll just we'll just mute everybody. I don't know how to do that. We're going to find out. All is well. Unless, of course, yeah, we'll do that. I don't know how to mute everybody. We're going to learn. We're learning. These are learning curves. A little clunky. There we go. All right. So my YouTube. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I'm just going to see if I can find my live stream on YouTube and get us over to Facebook so that everyone who wanted to come on can. Thank you for your patience. My channel. Have I found it? Live show. Yay! All right. We've already got someone watching. Woohoo!
Right.
And we have live chat, but I won't be able to see your live chat, my friends. And so bear with me while I share it. Thank you for your patience. Channel. There we go. Copied link. I'm just going to put it over onto Facebook. We are live. We are live with Angela. Angela, and there you are, Angela. I'm clicking you on and live here. Paste. Oh, fantastic. It works. It works. There we go. And everybody can click on us and go. So you're clicked on. Wonderful. Welcome, everybody. We've got Angela McGee here. Oh, can you hear me? Who can't hear me? Oh, you can't see me? Let me see. How about we go on gallery? Can you see me now, Angela?
No.
No.
Oh, can you see me now?
Yes, we can see you, and everybody's here together.
Hello.
So can you see everybody, Angela?
Yes, I can see two ladies so far.
Wonderful. And so there's about 4 in total in addition to me. We've got Stephanie Wild, Steph Wild, Martha Peterson, Rebecca Suzanne Scott, and Noel Martin. And I know other people will be making their way shortly because I had a number of people let me know that they're coming. So welcome, everybody. I would love to let you know about this incredible lady, Angela McGee, who is internationally acclaimed a psychic medium. She has been a medium since a young child and really very gifted. And she has been invited all around the world to through to spiritual centers to have open galleries and contact spirit. She is literally living a life that is spirit-led, and wherever spirit takes her and tells her to go, that's where she goes. And I have read 2 of her 4 books, Angela's Angels. Now, I did write them down. There are 4 books, Angela's Angels, The Psychic Soul's Journey, Angela's Angels, Psychic Detective, Angela's Angels Revisited, and Crime Scene Psychic. And Angela, I know that as you were growing up, you had many experiences, and it became obvious to you as you were moving through life that this was the gift that you had to offer people all around the world, and you just kept moving every time Spirit asked you to move. And you have such an inspiring life story, and you have so much experience. In particular, I'd love to hear how Spirit led you to work with police and police and cases, forensic cases. So I know a few people here probably haven't read your book, but I'm sure they will. And it would be lovely to hear about that part of your story. And we know that your book is being translated to lots of different languages around the world. I think you mentioned Japan is one that's been that's the latest one. And you are also a teacher, and this is how I met you. I was lucky enough to meet you through Gloria Wykent, a mutual friend of ours. And she, I did some psychic detective a workshop with you, which was private mentoring. And I'm just letting everybody know that if you wanted to do any private work with Angela, that she's available. And you're due to have a workshop, you mentioned, in a couple of places coming up in the UK. Is that right, Angela?
Yeah. I've got my regular psychic detective workshop, which has travelled with me around the world, shall we say. That's for the local people here. I've also got some, I call them gigs. I sound like a rock and roller, but I've got gigs coming up in Manchester and elsewhere. So yeah, I'm back in the swing of things after this long COVID haul, but I do a lot of private mentoring. For some reason, people like to do it and not tell their husbands, and I think they just, so people, still contact me from all over the world, because I'm quite fortunate and I've been blessed. Because the TV series is still, it's having a revamp at the moment on the new channels. So it's being brought up and it's still circulating the globe, which is very
this particular series is called Psychic Detectives, is that right?
No, Psychic Investigators.
Psychic Investigators, thank you.
It's a bit different. There is a series called Psychic Detectives. It's quite different.
Yes, it is.
The detectives, the medium's taken to a location where they're asked to sense and feel what's happened, etc. Whereas with Psychic Investigators, it became kind of a classic, because they actually had to scan the world, not just for a medium, because obviously there's plenty of those. They were scanning the world for detectives who would go on screen and confess or talk about the fact that they've linked with a psychic medium in a case, basically. So the key element was the police involvement. And I was very blessed and fortunate that I remember sitting at home one day, and the phone rang, and it was a lady who said, "I believe you're the crime-solving medium. This is Cineflix film company, which is based in Canada. And apparently it's the second biggest one in the world outside Hollywood." And I didn't know that one. But anyway, I was quite surprised. And they said, "I believe have you got a good story to tell us?" Well, I think the landmark one for me, where I had a barrage of visions, just one after the other, when I was invited to a scene of the crime by another publican, or shall we say encouraged to go. I remembered that story, and I then reeled it off to them. And then they said, "Do you think the family will talk? Do you think the police will talk?" And I said, "Well, I can't answer for them, because I've only met them for a few hours, and it was a few years ago, because you always remember your best adventures, shall we say." And they just said, "Oh, leave it with us." And I put the phone down thinking, "Oh, that ain't going to happen." Of course, 3 weeks later, they're phoning me up saying, "We found your detectives. They want to go on screen and talk about you." And I'm like, "Oh my God," and I was so blessed. I felt so humbled and blessed by it all. So yeah, and that sort of created the series, Psychic Investigators. And it was a total blessing. But this is a woman who never wanted to be a medium. I never grew up and said, "Look, today I'm going to be a medium," or I just knew there was something from a very small child, something very, very different about me. There was things happening with me, but there was bigger things happening to me in my physical life because I was going through a lot of trauma as a child. And so this side of my life where I actually saw what you'd say, I saw dead people, I saw in the playground, I saw spirits of children and I'd play with them. But you know, when it's only in hindsight, looking back, especially on your school reports, you've got teachers saying chatting to herself too much, always in a daydream. Or when you think about it, we go into a so-called daydream trance state to connect with our higher self. So I was doing that very early on, going into this trance-like state. Plus I was in that trance-like state, I was talking and seeing these little children who other people didn't see. And I knew they were different because they were dressed in a different attire. And, you know, so that was one school report. And then, of course, when I got into my teens, there was another, well, a teacher caught me because I was used to have, I have visions, I have flashing visions in my mind's eye. I was very good at school at finding people's lost bags, because when you used to go from block to block for different lessons, so quite often people would leave their bags behind. And of course it was early in the morning when my friend goes, oh, I can't find my bag, and I flashed a picture and I went, oh, it's in the science block. And the teacher went, well, it's 9 o'clock, you haven't been anywhere yet, how would you know? And then of course it was just a total embarrassment because it was a part of me that I didn't discuss, you know, kind of thing. And he just went, oh, you must have a photographic memory. And so that was a kind of I thought, maybe I have, you know. And that was me trying to come to terms with it. But then, you see, I grew up in an era where the words psychic and medium wasn't around me. And the only thing I could liken my experiences to was my catechism in the morning, my Bible times, you know, the people who had visitations, apparitions, you know, premonitions. It was all happening to me, but I used to not, you know, because obviously I had to deal with really big, bad things that was going on in my life as a child. And so that's always, this gift always took a back burner kind of thing. So it was then like, it was the day my grandmother died. I was living down south, she was up north. And then we got the message to say that she died. And of course, that night she appeared to me at the end of my bed. This is just classic, but I laugh about it now because I think, oh, a lot of people have that same experience. But no, but with my nan, it was just like a ball of light, and there was like a mist, but it was like a silk screen television, and she's there waving at me, and all she said was, I'm all right, I'll be back to see you later. And I thought, oh, and then of course I woke up the next morning and my mum broke the news to me, and it didn't affect me at all. And in my childlike mind, I just went, oh, my nan's gone, she's just gone somewhere else. She's still alive, she's just gone somewhere else. And but it was 7 years later, when I was 17, living in a different city, being independent, being a young, you know, influential girl that's gone to London to see the bright lights. Anyway, I lived with girls at the time in an apartment. We all worked for a big hotel company. And anyway, it was one of the nights when I was having 4 days off work, which was listed. I saw a piercing light in the corner of the bedroom, and I thought, I thought it's the chink of the curtains. I thought, oh, shut the curtains. Something irritated me. I couldn't sleep. I was restless. And sort of the light, I could see the glow then, and the light just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, what do you do when you're 17? You've got more of a logic brain. What do? You go under the sheets. And of course, then I heard my grandmother's voice telling me to go and see my Uncle Bob. And I thought, I haven't seen my Uncle Bob since I was a little girl. And I thought, he lived 200 miles away in Wales. And I thought, do I go there? And then, of course, the feeling that went throughout me and the sheer peace that comes with spirit, with the right spirit, shall I say, it'll instill peace in you. And then you wake up with just being totally inspired, or shall we say, instrumented because I took my case down and started packing my case, and my flatmate said to me, "Where are you going?" And I went, "I've got to go to Llandudno." They went, "You didn't say that last night when you were going to sleep." I went, "No, we've just got to go." I couldn't explain, you see. And of course, I got on a train. I travelled 200 miles. I went up the mountain and knocked on the door. And that night, it was my Uncle Bob's silver wedding anniversary. And the only person missing from that family get-together was my grandmother. You say, and everyone of my dad's family was in that one house for that one night only. So I arrive out the blue from a little girl, and my Uncle Bob spoke about it till the day he died. He used to say, "That night you turned up unexpectedly, it was a miracle," you know. And of course they made a big fuss, and I tried to explain to my grandfather, and all I could say was, "My nan sent me." That's all I could say in my, you know, understanding of it all then. I still didn't feel confident enough to talk about it, even to relatives. But so they gave me the head of the table, made a big fuss, and of course it was her spirit that sent me there. But when I look back, it's always in hindsight how the spirit world gave me so many experiences growing up, that in reflection, looking back, I can then understand that you can see the development of the gift and the experiences they gave me to learn so much more about their daily intervention, because their intervention goes on daily. So on that occasion, I realized that I could receive a message, act upon it, and get a result. It was all this preparation for the work that they were training me for, which was the forensic stuff and the work with the police. So that was another landmark. And then, of course, you know, I had to go off in my 20s when I had a young family. I went and told the priest, basically. I just said, "Oh," because it was that I was having so many visitations, so many premonitions, that I had to tell somebody. So what do? You run to the priest and you confess. So you go, "Father, what would you say about these people who have premonitions and visitations?" And he said to me, with his glasses on the end of his nose, scrutinising me, he just said, "Angela, take it as a gift from God, but be careful what you do with it." And it is about bringing comfort and peace. It's not about ego. It's not about the big I am. And it's not about instilling fear. It's about people should come to you and leave uplifted and with hope. And those are the two things that any medium should be doing in this, you know, in their work, even today. And that's what it's all about, is bringing peace and comfort and hope for a future, knowing that life does not end. There's no such thing as death. It's just a transition. So so that's sort of that experience. Then, of course, the psychic investigators, the story that they covered was, it's a very long one actually, but it's too long to mention. But it was another publican. My friend was a publican. When I say a friend, she was a client who I gave a message to. I'd solved a robbery at her pub, but when a bigger thing happened and a publican actually got murdered, because they all trained together, you see. So she phoned me and said, "Oh, there's been a murder of a publican." He said, "Lovely man, I'm sure you'll be able to help him." And I remember saying, "It's a different case. It's a case of murder." I was a bit nervous. I was going, no, this is just a different ball game. I don't want to, actually go down there." And she said, "Oh, promise me." And I said, so I half promised her I would. But it was then when I was down at Stansted. I think everybody knows Stansted, which is the mediums mecca down in London, the SNU, where they help to train mediums. I was down there, and I remember being in the garden and with the big oak tree, and all of a sudden I hear my own father's voice, and he shouts at me and he goes, "What about this murder?" And I thought, "Oh, I've got to go." Of course, your dad tells you to go, you go, don't you? So I decided, cut a long story short, I returned to the Midlands, decided to go to the pub, and then I think the TV series starts as me pulling on the car park, and I have my first vision of 3 men climbing a black fire escape staircase and entering a window at the top of the building. And that with that first vision, I had the confidence to go and knock the door then. And then I said, oh, excuse me, love, I'm a local medium. I might be able to help you. And then I went, I've had a vision, and there's 3 men that got into that door at the top of the building. She went, how do you know that? Just like she was quite shocked. How do you know that? And then I sort of thought, oh, she's questioning me now. Oh, she doesn't know, whether I'm a medium or not. So like, I sort of brought out an ID card and went, I am a real medium. So anyway, I had another vision. She invited me in. We climbed the stairs. And as I climbed the stairs, I could see a room with all the chairs knocked over, with several doors around the room. And I then said to her, there was chairs knocked over to the room you're taking me, and I could see several doors leading off it. And she says, yes, that's the restaurant. There was chairs all knocked over in the struggle. And then I pointed to one door, and I just went, see that door there? That's where I want to go through if I can. And she said, that's the door to the living quarters. Go ahead. And of course, little did I know, before I came, she'd put rugs over the bloodstains and stuff. So anyway, I stood at a doorway, and I could then enter the room, one particular bedroom, and I could actually see the victim lying under the window, see all his injuries down one side, and it was quite horrendous. But then in the vision, 3 men rushed past me carrying something the size of a shoebox. And I said, there's 3 of them. I said, they've run past me and they've gone down the corridor and they're carrying something the size of a shoebox. And she said the safe was the size of a shoebox. So, it was this robbery. Anyway, it's quite a long, I won't spoil it because you can actually watch it on IMB TV or the other one, which is Prime Video.
Yes, on Prime Video. I've
Prime
seen it on Prime Video.
It's on It's on as we speak, actually. You can tap into it, kind of thing. But it is a remarkable experience for me. And I think that I remember leaving that public house that day and shaking from head to foot, thinking, God, why have you shown me all this? But obviously there was a greater purpose which unfolded. It's also in the documentary. But when they actually flew over to film the series, funny enough, the director was from New York, and he just said, we did all the research. He said, and you gave that much information to police, we can't fit it in the time that's allocated. So we have to highlight it and you pick out the bits. And then he told me, because when you channel, it passes through you. Right. And the intent is to be passed to the receiver. You're just the channel. So 9 times out of 10, you do not remember, everything that comes through your channel. Because it's a bit like when I'm on stage, I always remember the first messages and the last. They seem more prominent in my mind afterwards, because I have actually gone up on a vibration while I'm working in semi-trance, and then I eventually come off the vibration. So it's usually the first and the last message that you will remember. And so, because we are, as I say, channels for messages to pass through and on to the receiver. But I remember the director filling me in, saying that, you gave that much information, we couldn't fit it in, blah, blah, blah. And he says, did you know that the last words to the publican you said was, don't worry, in 3 months' time, they'll round up 3 men and a woman. The woman isn't mentioned in the documentary because that was another thing they had to cut out because they had to fit it into the time slot. So, and it was 3 months to the day of your visit that they rounded up the 3 men and the woman involved, because obviously they all got 20 maximum sentences, which the victim told me that they would get maximum sentences. And but off the record, the girl actually got 6 years for aiding and abetting, because she was the one who drove the culprits to the place for them to do the robbery. So she was done for aiding and abetting, as they say. But that's all history now. That was a big, major landmark for me. And then, of course, Spirit Realms told me from a very little girl I'd write a book, and I would also tell the world about the spirit. Little did I know there was going to be the invention of the computer, and that would go that way. But I have I'm being blessed to be invited around the world to various places to talk about my experiences and my books and to demonstrate the power of spirit. So yes, next questions. Anybody got any questions? Because I'm not losing my drift there.
So Angela, I have a quick question before someone else jumps in, and I encourage everyone who's on to maybe think of something in Angela's story or anything that you're curious about, to ask her about her presence and everything that we've talked about. A little bit later, I think, Angela, you'll be bringing through messages, but just for the moment, we're just taking questions or, about any curiosities about you and what you've done. So a quick question I have is, you mentioned the police who were coming on in the Psychic Investigators series, and that it was a really big deal for them to step up, because a lot of them were would never have at that time admitted to having spoken to a psychic or have enlisted the help of a psychic on a case, or even believed that the help of a psychic on that case would be of any use whatsoever. And over your years of experience, have you found that to change? Have you found that the police officers, or that that there has been a change in the way that you are viewed, or psychic mediums are viewed?
Right, in my day, I was talking about decades ago, there was a written policy in Scotland Yard which advises police not to use psychics or mediums. That's in their policy, right? So, but now in what they call the College of Policing, they've changed the clause, and it just says you will take statements from anybody, regardless of who they are. So they've rubbed that bit out now. But the lovely thing about it, I mean, when I made that film, obviously, I had two detectives that came to my house to ask me what I'd seen at the scene. And then, of course, they went back to their chief and told them what I said. And of course, that's another long story, but they couldn't confide in me any details, because obviously because of confidentiality, because when you are asked to go somewhere with the police, they tell you absolute zilch. You go totally blind. They will just take you to locations and just go, tell me what you sense and feel here, or they'll give you a file to hold. And then you reel off what's in the file or what you pick up. But you see, it's not about solving the crime. The police actually solve the crimes. You might step in, and that's what a real psychic does. They will confirm lines of inquiry. They will name names and places and incidences that have happened. And then what it is, you will see the future. You will see how the case unfolds. And then you will say, like my statement at the end when I left the publican, it's not going to get solved to 3 months' time. That's when they'll round up 3 men and a woman, which they did to the day of my visit. So, you're actually having insights to what's going to happen. And it's when you're a medium and you've got a gift of mediumship, you also have to have a gift of discernment, because the information that you receive, you need to know whether it's from a human soul, a holy soul, or a demonic soul. And you have to need to know the difference, because sometimes you'll be misled or confused or whatever. But and it's about living a spiritual life and living in a spiritual way with spiritual thoughts, although it's hard when you're a mum with 4 kids. But yeah, it's about finding your focus and knowing how you can help the police. But it's also about them, because you see, they are trained with hard facts and logic. That's all they go on. And I think they don't think outside the box. So when these 2 detectives, after visiting me, went back to the chief and went, oh, she said this and said that, she knew this, she knew that, it really opened up a chink of light in his mind. And the chief himself actually wanted, and he did in the end, wanted to go into the series and say how blown away he was by the information that was received.
Yes.
And for him to do that, to put his head on the chopping block, because at work he would have been ridiculed, scrutinized, laughed at. Yeah, it was a very brave thing for him to do. And to me, he's my hero for 2 reasons. Because he was heroic enough to admit that there is another side to life, or there is something going on in a greater picture. And also the other thing is the fact that I myself have split-second visions of what's happened. They have it full in their faces with the horrors, and they work with it for hours and weeks and months on end. So, you know, they're the real heroes. You know, I remember
That's true.
Yeah, I remember being on one case, and this detective had took me into a woods, and there was 1,000 trees, and I pinpointed the one tree where a boy was found hanging. And of course, he put on his interrogation hat, and he said, "Oh yeah, can you tell me the colour of the rope? Tell me what he's wearing." Anyway, I said, "It's a blue rope." I even told him about the 2 knots and a ring in it, which was valuable forensic evidence. It was a trademark to a serial killer, basically. Anyway, that's in the book. That's in one of the books.
That is in your book, yeah.
Yeah, that's in the crime scene psychic. But that turning point, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, people say to me, "Well, how much do they pay you?" And I thought, it's a sense of duty. Somebody came knocking on your door and said there's been a local murder. You know, what do you know about it? And you'd say it as a psychic. You'd say it because it's a sense of duty and a sense of care and responsibility to your fellow man. So you would help. And so people go, "Oh, well, they don't pay you then." And I go, "No, you should get a big hug at the end of the day saying that you're very special." And that's the only thing I've ever got to achieve. He put his arms around me and just went, "Oh, you're so special." You know, and that's all he said, because he couldn't explain it, he couldn't absorb it, you know, to put it into words, basically. But so I thought that's good enough for me. And then, of course, the lovely thing about him, the one detective, there's been a couple of detectives, they've endorsed my books with the sayings that they said about me, which I think,
oh, that's incredible.
It is incredible to have these skeptics who work with hard facts and
yes,
logic, and then it's like you just give them a chink of light. You know, it's not me, it's the spirit world have come in and took over, and they want to impress them. For greater purpose, basically, just to make them think outside the book. But the wonderful thing about policing now, you've got a lot of young people going into the force who are spiritual, who do think outside the box, who do have a knowledge of psychics and mediums. So you've got them in the force now already, because it's becoming very, very popular. But when we're saying it's popular, it's the fact that it's a part of us that's never been any different. It's always been there. It's just that it's westernization and science has swept it under the carpet. And it's now we've got forces of young people going in, the actual police force, and actually, you know, thinking outside the box. So quite often, you know, they come see me, and usually incognito, because they don't tell you. And I just sit there and go, "Oh, I can see a blue uniform with you," you know, and then they just smile, and then it's all out the bag then. And then they go, "What do you think of such and such a case?" You know, and if there's some case that's in the press, but I don't go looking for cases because I am so busy with everyday life and with my spiritual work. When it comes to murders, I let them come to me, because spirit will, I always say, spirit send me the people that need to know, need to be connected to me, because we're all connected, really. When you think of the earth, we're all connected. As I say, spirituality is the awareness of the universe, the earth, the people, and the animal kingdom, knowing we are as one. We're all blended together. And the saddest thing, we are killing part of us when we're destroying the earth and the animals and people. Yeah. Basic, and not believing in the God energy, the God energy force, which is the universal God energy force. God you can't see, it's just filtrated into everything. You know, there are Godheads like Buddha and Jesus and Allah. They were just teachers of love, because Jesus wasn't a Christian, was he? He was just Jesus, and
that's right.
And I always say, you know, we're living in a world where, you know, we are living in a world under instruction, and some of those instructions have been made by people we've put into power, and some of the instructions are not right. What's morally right and legally right is two different things. That's what's happening to the world now. And the fact that I always say that in those conditions, when you think that, you know, the majority, they'll go, well, everybody thinks like that, don't they? And I go, well, no. I said, if you know what's in your heart is right, you only have to say one saying to them. I always say, now Hitler had millions of followers, but Jesus only had 12. Now, who was right? You know? That's so true.
That's true.
There's so many people now who are searching. I wouldn't say they're converted, but they're searching. And we're placed on the earth as channels to help the searchers and the seekers. And it's also, we learn from them, because every human being I come into contact with, I learn something from them. You know, and every day you cannot say that you are the expert, because when you do, you say you're the expert, you've stunted yourself, because where does you carry on till you take your last breath on earth. Then you're learning, because you're transcending into the next part, the next realm. So, you know, it's infinity. But we are all, you know, spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yes. And I think you have a group of people here who are on board with everything that you've said spiritually. And I'd like to open the floor to them. If you want to ask Andrew a question, please turn on your camera. And we're going to open the floor here. And maybe raise your hand, or raise a physical hand if you want to chat, and I'll unmute you or unmute yourself. I think, Steph, do you have a question? You've unmuted there. Okay.
Hello, Steph.
Hi, Angela. I'd love to hear more about your process, as I say. You've mentioned God, you mentioned visions, you mentioned spirit world. Do you know where they come from? Is like your grandma helping you on the other side and like playing the video back of the crime? Are you walking back into a timeline? And how do you get so detailed? Like you talked about the rope and the how it was fastened and everything. Yeah.
It's just right. My visions. I know the difference between pictures in your psychological mind and something from a higher realm. The one from the higher realm is always in this bright daylight, and then you see it on, it's like watching a video record, almost like on a silk screen. You know that's a message. It's a bit like when you channel things and you've got a stranger in front of you. They come through, they say things, because I can hear them talk. They say things, and I know that what they're saying doesn't belong, it's not part of what's stored in my brain, it's something outside. And I know I need to pass that on. So it's like, you know the difference when you're a medium from what, you know, a thought that you might have created, or a thought from spirit. It's in light, and B, it's like there are organizations which train people, and they train them in such a way that they say, when the spirit comes through, you've got to say what his name was, where he lived, what he did as a job, how he died, blah, blah, blah. And they train them all the same. And it's like saying to the people of the spirit realms, don't come through unless you tell us all this information first. Well, communication from spirit, in my experience, is that you'll catch on to a conversation. It's just like your mum, if she come through, she'd be going, oh, do you remember Joe down the road and he had all those cats? And do you know, that kind of thing? It's like she'll come in talking, like when you've met an old friend, they'll come talking. It's called communication. It's not, an organisation here on earth having the power and saying, if you want to communicate, tell us your name, your address, your age, you know, what you do. It doesn't, it's like regimented. It doesn't, energy is universal, and God will take you by surprise, and he'll also work with the greatest power. And I always say, God makes things simple. That's the word. It makes things simple. It's like when I first appeared I did a gallery in America. It's my first experience of American culture. And I thought the audience was absolutely, it's not like a British audience. you were absolutely wonderful, because you're so open with it, aren't you? And, you know, they're so, you know, expressive is the word, you know, especially when you go to Italy as well. They're all hands and they're all screaming and, you know, shouting bellissimo and all this, you know. So, but my experience with Americans, later on, that they came up to me and said, how is it you're so direct? And I said, because pure mediumship is communication. There's a difference between psychic and medium, and that's obviously, right. And there's a big grey area. People get confused. You know, we're all psych. Psych, the word is Greek for soul, spirit. We've all got spirit. Your own spirit can tell you things, give you hunches, thoughts, feelings, especially around the solar plexus. It's a bit like my detectives. What he once said, Angela, I may not believe in what you know, understand what you do. He says, but when I've got a case and I look at a suspect, I go by my gut feeling. Yeah. And I looked at him and I went, did you know your gut feeling is your spirit that's telling you things? And he just laughed. I said, well, that's your labeling, your the way you work. I says, but these are just, it's almost like there's a million words that means it's coming from the same source, but it works in different ways, just different descriptions. But no, I know the difference, and it's knowing the difference between psychic and medium. Mediumship is a different level. Mediumship is communication from the spirit realms. It's not just using your own psyche to know things.
Okay, and so it's psychic when you, for example, when you walked into the living quarters of the pub, and you saw all these things happening, but you didn't hear the victim.
No, the visions, right? What I've learned and how I express. There's psychic, there's medium, and visionary. A vision is a picture in bright white, which I know has come from the highest realm. You don't have to express, you just have to see. It's like having your trust in God, basically.
Okay.
On that higher trust. And the trust, I always say, I love this saying. It's like some men we as men of the world have an attitude. It says, show me, and then I'll trust you. God says, trust me, and then I'll show you.
Okay.
It's so different. So it's building up that trust and that faith. And I think that, you know, sometimes they say, you know, it's blind faith, because the spirit realms have blended with me since I was a little girl. As a child, it's like children watching cartoons. They believe in cartoons. So you've already building a foundation of faith. And then when I get a little bit more intelligent and you're doing your catechism, you're thinking, oh yeah, that happened to me, that happened to me. And then you're kind of piecing it all together. And it's the spirit world and molding you to build that trust and faith, and to go forward in life with profound trust and faith. And that's all you need.
Okay.
To have your experience of
spirit. I love that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Lovely talking to you. Love your ring. Lovely.
Anyone else? Dawn's waving. Hi, Dawn. Just unmute yourself.
Who's Dawn? Hi, Dawn.
Hi, I'm sorry. So I want Georgia. Thank you for.
Oh, hi, Dawn.
Hi. So I just want to thank Georgia for inviting me. And Angela, it was so nice to hear your story. I missed the beginning of it. I'm sorry. But I jumped in and I was able to catch on to what you were saying. So I would really love to watch the documentary. So Georgia, you'll have to tell me how to do that. Okay, so I have a question. Before you said to go into forensics, you really have to have discernment, right? And then you said, and then you explained the two differences. What were they? I missed that. One was
the difference between
to differentiate knowing the souls of spirits.
What is a human soul, a holy soul, and a demonic soul? Because obviously there's dark and light, isn't there? When I always explain that on earth there is good and bad people, that when they progress and they move forward into a realm that is part of their visual creation, they were not going to the same places, are they, in their spiritual development? As I say, you wouldn't put Mother Teresa with Fred Westridge as a serial killer over here, but you wouldn't put them on the same realm, would you, as they pass over? They go into a realm to develop even more. So, you know, and they're still learning, both of them, but sometimes I believe in reincarnation. That's another thing.
Okay, good. Because that kind of follows through. I'm going to ask you a question that is a little, I'm going to branch off, and if it's not okay, just say so. So I'm a developing medium, and a lot of past life regression sessions have come up. So one, I wonder if you ever did one on yourself, and two, would that be considered psychic as opposed to like mediumship?
Well, psychic is just, you're right. Psychic is just a Greek word for soul, basically. Your soul has a journey, and it's probably had many journeys prior to the one that you remember now. And you've obviously got, actually, the most fascinating, I love combining the science with the spiritual. I'm fascinated by that. I'm writing a book at the moment called The Soul's DNA. Because it's all about the spiritual stories and the fact that science is now telling us that you'll start to realize that you have traits and you're following a pathway of an ancestor that you've never met subconsciously. Is it subconsciously, or is it the fact that you were that spirit? Because they know that DNA has spirit, has soul, because it's part of the cell. And another question that you're quite often asked is, when does the spirit enter you know, the child? Some mediums have dictated saying, oh, at the first breath, some during so many months during pregnancy, but it's not. I was told as a child or as a teenager, the spirit enters at conception. And now I've watched a fascinating film by scientists where the sperm meets the egg and there's a spark of light that happens. Well, everything in our theology has told us about spirit being light, and it just confirms that the light that's created when those two meet is the spirit that's entering, basically. It's a bit about the earth and the first explosions, isn't it? But that's remarkable. But I think I've lost track here. But what I'm saying is people get the word psychic and medium mixed up. If I get transgressed, my soul's being taken back to a previous life. I have been transgressed. I have been a nun in a previous life. I'm aware of that. And I have, the uncanny thing is, and it's not uncanny, it's a spiritual connection, because you will have soul connections going on with previous people, whether they're related or whether they're not. It's just the uncanny thing. When my first ever book, I called it Angela's Angels, A Psychic Soul's Journey. And the uncanny thing, I was aware of a nun that used to visit me as a child. I'm not saying every week or every night. It was during traumas in my life. She would be there telling me things. 2 prophecies that she told me was, you will grow up and tell the world about the spirit. But when I discovered spiritualism, I thought, maybe I've missed a word off the end. I'm going to tell the world about the spirit world. But now I know, as years have passed, I'm going to tell the world about the spirit, the all-encompassing spirit. Yes, the God spirit, the earth spirit, every kind of spirit, the animal spirit, us as spirits. But I do believe that people do get those 2 words mixed out, and it is your soul's journey. If you get progressed, it's part of who you are. And I always say, please go and get your DNA done, because you will discover personality traits, and then you'll discover somebody 100 years ago who had those traits, and you discover who you truly are in this life, and you will have recollections of their lives. So my question is, were you that soul? Did you live that life? Or have you just inherited a chink of memory, scientifically making up the cells in your own body, which I do believe.
So interesting. That is so interesting.
It is fascinating. People think I'm on commission because I advertise the DNA.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you.
Um,
That was
Carolyn?
very insightful.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dawn. Carolyn, I think you popped up with a question.
just very quickly, just in keeping with the ancestral family trauma, I actually have been doing work in this area with a woman named Michelle Colt in LA because she's really deep into it right now. And my gut told me that some obstacles were coming at me. I'm having, and this is not about me, except that I'm having huge career success, huge parenting success, and yet obstacles were coming out at me that I was creating. And I couldn't figure it out. And my gut told me that I had inherited or taken on some kind of trauma, and we pinpointed it to a specific person. Now my question is, where do I go from here? What would you, Angela, do I continue with the work? Do I, I was told.
You would continue the work because you've been given the evidence of it.
Yeah.
And that evidence needs to be spread about, because that knowledge, other people need to know what you know. The knowledge does not stop with you.
Right.
You need to share that. And if you know that you can help people in the same way, that's who you're supposed to be. It's a bit like who I am now. I never wanted to be a medium, but now I know I've been given all this experience and all this knowledge. It's not for me. It's to share. It's like if you have a gift, you have to use it. You're using your gift. You're giving it back to God, basically, when you share it.
Well, and the question too is just, sorry, guys, I don't want to commandeer your time, but I am so curious as to whether I've inherited a memory or I am this person. And that is where I'm struggling, because if I've inherited a memory, I want to build a shrine to that person, tell them that I love them, but I'm not taking it on. I am not taking it on.
There is a answer, because there's going to be many. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
The soul is like has many layers to it.
Yeah.
So part of you could have been part of them.
Okay. So it could be, it's many levels. Okay. Yep.
Yes. The soul has many. It's like, I see it as an onion, basically. It's like when somebody leaves this earth tragically, they've left a stain on the energy field. I step into the energy field and all of a sudden I've picked up on who this is. It's not that they have transcended to the realm that they need to go to, but they've left something here. Bit like you've left a step that that's part of you, but it's also I would do both, because I realize now, right, my guide who used to visit me, I discovered who she was, but she led me in disguise almost. I was having healing one day. A healer had her hands on me, and she said, I'm not medium like you, but when I touched you, I saw a nun. I said, so did I. But this nun had a short white headdress, right? I was brought up with Carmelite nuns. They didn't have short white headdresses. So I questioned it. So in my mind, I had to go and do the research, as if my spirit guide sent me on this trail. I'm in a Catholic bookshop. I'm going to the counter. I was at another thing, like buying my holy water and my crosses for some of the work that I do. I glanced down at a bookcase, and there's a woman with a Victorian dress on and her hair up in a bun, and I see the face. And I went, see that face there? I said, was that woman a nun on that book there? She went, you're only looking at St. Teresa of Lisieux, right? So anyway, I called my first book, A Psychic Soul's Journey. I said, I've got to buy that book. And when I opened it up, I read her life, and her life has mirrored mine. She was brought up by a single parent. She was the youngest of 7 children. She suffered migraine. I know I didn't go and live in a convent. She suffered migraine. She wrote 3 books, and her first book was called A Story of a Soul. And it was almost mine, was A Psychic Soul's Journey. Oh, sorry, it was called Journey of a Soul. Those are the 2 words that are in the title of my book.
Yeah.
So there was too many reflections going on. And I'm saying to myself, was I her? Did I live her life? Just like you, did I live her life? Or have I got some of her cells? Or is this just a reflection of something else? Right. But I glorify her, because I know that we have a soul connection going on. And that's what you have. You have soul connections, not necessarily DNA.
So interesting.
Like have a combination of both.
Yeah, it's yep. Interesting. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
great
So
insight.
worship
Thank you,
whoever this
Carolyn.
person is, make a shrine to them and bless yourself because you've got some of their soul traits.
Yeah, definitely. Some destructive ones, unfortunately, that have taken
Well,
totally.
you need to
by
deal
surprise.
with them. If
Yeah.
it's the opposite and it's negative, you need to deal with it to the best of your knowledge now in this life.
Yeah. Yeah.
To disperse it because you're doing some of the work from their part of their journey.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you, Carolyn. And we wish you the best on your journey. Angela, how do you feel about opening up
Yeah.
to
Yeah, I feel as if
us as a gallery, see what spirit?
I've spoken enough now.
I feel
I feel there's a lady there. Hello. Hello. Who's this lady? Can't hear her.
Hi, I'm Robin.
Hi, Robin. How are you?
Good. I know Georgia from class.
Oh, Georgia from class.
With Gloria.
Oh, with Gloria, bless you. I was just about to give a message to the lady that came on before with the dark hair. What was her name?
Oh, Dawn.
Was it Dawn?
Well, Dawn was asking you a question. The other lady with the dark hair is Karen Goldberg.
All right.
And Martha Peterson.
Can we go back to this lady? Was she going to ask me a question?
Yes, Robin.
Robin, bless you. Right.
Hi. No, I just tuned in. I'm sorry I'm late.
No, don't worry. Ask me a question if you've got a question.
I'm not ready yet to ask a question.
No, you're not ready yet. Okay. Right. I get to the stage where I feel very drawn to. I felt drawn to the lady with the dark hair that came on.
Does she have a name? I can't see. She's the last one.
No,
Was
not
it
the last
Dawn?
one, before the last.
Dawn,
one.
can you speak so that Angela can see you?
Hi, I asked you about past life regressions and the difference of discernment. That's what I.
Oh yeah. The difference.
That's me, okay.
Gift of discernment, which was got to go hand in hand and together with your work.
Right.
Yeah. It's no use being a medium if you don't know the difference between the spirit and spirits that you're talking to, because some people get confused. That's where they get misled.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I get right with you, Joy. I get a father figure in spirit because you do look like him. Do you understand this?
Who are you talking to now, Angela?
Lady with the dark hair that just got off.
Dawn.
Yes.
Dawn.
Okay. So I'm reminding you of whom?
You have a father figure in spirit.
My father is in here on this earth plane.
Or is it the grandfather then?
My grandfather, yes, he's in spirit.
But you look like your father's side of the family.
Absolutely, I do.
Thank you, because I feel this grandfather's saying, you're so much like us. Do you understand me?
Oh, I got the chills. Yes.
Yes.
I understand that. Yes.
It comes through with an energy, but I don't feel that your grandfather, he has memories across the water. Do you understand this?
I do.
Yeah, because it's like he spent part of his life on your shores, shall we say.
Correct.
Thank you, because it's almost like he wants to step in, and it's almost like he's so proud of the family, the way they've worked hard, what they've achieved.
Thank
Now,
you.
if there's somebody in the family who's got linked with a medical profession.
Yes, two of us, yes.
Yes, because he's proud of them. Well, he's calling you doctors. I don't know whether you're doctors or doctorates, but he's calling you very, you're very clever, he's saying. Do you understand this?
I do.
Now, is there somebody called Raphael or Rufus? It's something to do with your name, do you? Do you understand it?
I can take Raphael.
Raphael, okay. Because, your grandfather, I know that it's how he speaks. I know that he spoke in sort of a broken language. Do you understand that?
Okay, I can't verify that because he passed a year before I was born.
Okay, well, it's how he's presented himself. If you ask around, you know that he didn't, like your speech is full American,
Yes.
language. He had a broken, he had like The way he's talking is almost like it's a broken, I call it broken English, but Americans speak English, don't they?
I can take that. I can take that because my father does too. My father was born here in America. So yes, I can confirm that.
Yeah, okay. But you've got work to do because he's on about, sorry, somebody's birthday's just gone as well.
Yes, my dad's and my
So he
husband's.
wants to say a happy birthday. Okay, he wants to say happy birthday. But your dad's quite a short, stocky man, and your grandfather was the same. Do you understand this?
I do.
Because this is how I see the physicalness of him. It's like he comes in with broad shoulders, and your grandfather would have worked the land, but your father is almost like business. He's a bit of business here and a bit of business there. Do you understand this?
I do.
Okay, because it's just the two. That's the difference between the two of them, and but there's a lot of love there. But there's something about, you know, who makes grandma's dish, and something to do with a dish that grandma used to make. Is her recipe still here? Do you understand this?
Yes, it was
like this because I just feel, you know, it talk a lot with the hands, and it's yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
That dish. So there's 3 siblings, myself and 2 others. I'm the only one that can cook like my grandmother's Italian sauce. So I get it. Yes.
well, that's why I'm talking in the hands. Did you know? I'll let you into a secret in a minute. I'm 20% Italian. I found that out recently through the DNA. And when I went to work in Italy, the first thing the Italian says to me, "You're so much like Italiano." Because my hands were, you know, I went, oh, and it was after that I found out this Italian grandmother who I've inherited some of her cells, and it makes me who I am, hence me loving the church. And but your grandfather is a lovely soul, and your dad, should we say that he's sending the love and healing to your dad because he's got something wrong with his right leg or his right foot at the moment. Do you understand this?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, because it's almost like I want to send healing to his right leg here because I'm sensing and feeling it. But you've got work to do as well, because almost like you have to put on a role where you're either counselling people. Do you understand this?
Can you go a little bit further than that? I'm not sure what you mean.
People are coming to you that have a lot of problems.
Yes.
And it's almost like you have the gift of counselling. You know that there's 9 gifts of
counseling.
Yes. Counselling.
Yes.
Because there's 9 gifts of the Holy Spirit, and one of them is counselling.
Right.
You have that gift of counselling and making, and it's a bit. You also have, obviously, you have the mediumship gift, because I do feel they dip in and out around you. You're very sensitive to the spirit world, so I've been told.
Correct.
And your experiences have been going on a number of years now, but you've had to put it in a pocket, so they're telling me.
Yes.
You had to either hide it away from a loved one.
Yes.
Do you understand this? Because
my goodness, you're spot on. Yes.
Oh, okay, because it's just saying you had to hide it away. And it's great though, because you know there's reason and purpose for that, because again, while you're hiding it away, you're still learning, and they're showing you more and more and more. But it's when there's a coming out with it, that's when there's more energy around you, and there's more and more people you're going to have to work with in a spiritual sense and a physical sense, because there's a lot of people wanting your help spiritually and physically.
So how do I preserve my energy? Because I feel my energy is pulled by those who need it, and I can't restore my energy fast enough, and I'm just left drained.
Meditation is the key.
Okay.
Meditation, make it a habit of your life.
Okay.
Meditation daily meditation.
Thank you for that.
You do not have to meditate you can meditate 15 minutes a day once you start to use it in the right steps, there's the ways in which you should do it, but it's meditative prayer is the most healing form of meditation. And it's almost, there's 3 stages to it. You go into humility first. Always remember that prayers is your asking, meditation is your answers. But it's also a healing realm that connects while you're you're meditating because it comes from a high source, or shall we say the highest source, or shall we say it comes from the source?
Right.
But yeah, meditation is but it's finding that 15 minutes a day, because even you say, I haven't got a minute to myself.
These days I do. I'm home taking
Yeah.
care of my husband. So
Yeah.
yeah, I have it. I have time.
Yeah. And plus you've got to have a lot of patience with your husband, haven't you?
Yeah.
Because your granddad says, oh, you need patience.
Yes, I do.
And if you haven't got the patience, it's almost like you need that detachment, he's saying, as it's almost like even that 15 minutes will detach you. Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Can I say that your grandfather's aware that your partner, your husband, he's talking about something about you can't do everything for him, and you know that he's got to learn to live with the conditions.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I know it's almost like, I know that, you know, on earth when they say, I mean, I've been healed myself. I'm living proof of being healed. I was healed when I was 28, but I know, and I've been a witness to healing. I mean, real charismatic spiritual healing. I've witnessed so many cases of it, but there's times on the earth when part of our journey is the experience. We don't learn unless we experience. Because life isn't, you know, because people say that if you could dip into a medium and get the right answer, you'd be living a perfect life. This life is not perfection as we know it. You can't, but you do have to experience, you know, and I always say grab happiness in between the life's lessons. But the thing is, I always say after each lesson, there is double the blessing.
That's nice to hear.
It's what makes us grow.
That makes so much sense.
What makes us grow. And you are going through a growing transition period at the moment.
Okay, good. I can't wait to get to the end of the tunnel here.
You will get to the end of the tunnel. I know, because what's happened with you, he's talking about everything's happened at once. It's not just one thing, it's just everything has been thrown at you.
Yes.
And he's telling you to keep your chin up, as if to say, keep your chin above water, keep your chin up, because you will get there in the end.
Well, thank you.
You will get there. And I know that those in the spirit world are rooting for you.
Oh, thank you.
They're working with you. You have no. Can we go to a place? Can we just go to, is it Athens? No, not Athens. Where is it? It's going to the north. It's all right, I've got my pen here, and Spirit is showing me a map. And we're going to South Italy with a family link. So
we went there just right before COVID, the summer of COVID. We all went there as a family. We went to Italy, south.
But you went to South Italy?
Yes. We went to Naples, yes.
Yes, yes. You do have family there, though?
Yes.
Because your grandfather's saying that's where he was from?
Correct.
It was on the outskirts of Naples?
Correct.
You take you to the south, okay. But this grandfather is a guide for you, because when we think of our guides and helpers, it's not necessarily somebody very significant. It can be somebody where it may not be a blood relative, but Granddad he comes through. When you have a lot of male spirits around you, they're coming through to give you that physical strength. And Grandfather, he worked like an ox, and he's saying that he had such a strong back. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
He had a strength about him.
Yes, he did. Yes, very, yep.
This is how he's coming in to give you strength to carry you through.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So when you say your prayers, because I know you do, when you
I
say
do.
your prayers, just say hello to your grandfather, because he's saying, I'm just waiting, okay? to make that connection. And he's waited a long time to make this connection.
Yeah, it all makes sense.
It makes a long time to make a connection. And also, there's I'm being shown now somebody, when they were in southern Italy, somebody bought a cross.
Yes, my future daughter-in-law bought a cross. Yes.
Yes, because he's on about, because I've just drew a cross on my paper here.
Uh-huh.
And he just said, when you southern Italy, can I say the thought behind that buying of the cross came from your grandfather?
Oh, that's so nice. Okay.
That's how he knew about it. Okay.
Okay.
That's how the spirit world sends us things via somebody else. It's always a thought, their thought, planting it into somebody else's mind for them to just thinking, give you the gesture or have the gesture around you. But a lot of our inspirations and thoughts do come from the people of the spirit world.
That's so interesting.
So there's a lot of love from him. Now, is there 2 children around you?
I have 2 children, yes.
Yeah, because he talks of the 2 children, okay? And there's a lot of love going being said. Mind you, they're like chalk and cheese, aren't they? Very
I'm sorry?
different. In England, they say they're like chalk and cheese. They're very different.
Yes.
Children. Okay. There's a boy and a girl.
Correct.
Because he talks about the boy and the girl. Okay.
Correct.
So it's his great-granddaughter and grandson.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Your daughter can be very stubborn at times. Do you understand that? Because he talks about being very, very stubborn. Very stubborn. Now, your son is saying that he's so laid back.
Yes.
That you'd have to give him a big shove for the kick to get him going in the morning. Do you understand this?
In some things, yes, but he's an early bird. He's up at 5, ready to take the day on. But generally, overall, he is laid back.
His attitude is laid back.
Yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he's dutiful and he gets on with life. But what I'm saying is he's got a laid back attitude.
Correct.
Nothing seems to, deter him or yeah.
Yes.
Quite
That's him.
solid, He's a bit like Grandad, He's like Grandad in his ways.
Yes.
He's like your grandfather in his ways. But
okay.
There is a grandfather name that has carried on in the family.
Yes.
He's on about being honoured by a name.
Yes. Do you want me to tell you the name?
No, I haven't heard it yet, but you can. But I'm just saying I hear something about this name that's carried on in the family.
His name was James, and if I was a boy, I would have been James. And then my cousin is James, named after him. And then my father is Joseph, and there's a million Josephs in my family, and my brother's son is Joseph. So names have been carried on.
Where is the Giovanni?
Giovanni would be my grandfather's sister-in-law. It's my grandmother's sister is Giovanni.
Oh, because he was on about Giovanni.
Now there might be one on his side. I don't know. The family was just so large. There could be a Giovanni on his side. I don't know.
He's on about Giovanni.
Okay.
But there's so much love there from Grandad, and just he wants to be remembered, and he is working with you and through you.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
I'll leave you with his love. Okay. I'm just sorry.
Thank you so much for that. That was a beautiful message. I appreciate it.
I can see you making a few notes there.
Yeah, I'm writing everything down. You said I made notes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you so much.
That's okay, my darling. That's okay. My pleasure. Right, next question. Sorry.
Well, I wanted to say, Angela, just to your example here of coming through with so much evidential information from spirit. I mean, everything was a hit. There's a few of us in this group who are, learning, got our training wheels on, and it was just extraordinary to see you in action to bring through information that immediately lands, and not just 1 piece, 2 piece, 10 pieces, 20 pieces, like at least 40 pieces, 50 pieces. You know, you're quite an inspiration. So thank you so much for your
My
effort
pleasure.
here.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. My pleasure. As I say, mediumship is about communication. It's like having a conversation. You're just tapping into their thoughts, and they're not going to come through and go, oh, you know, my name's Joe and I lived at such a, mind you, he was telling us in a roundabout way about Naples and everything else, but, you know, but it's not like, you know, regimented, and it's not robotic, because it's about communication at the end of the day, and it's about building the conditions as well, because conditions is important. You have to have certain conditions to connect with spirit. But I found how I teach people and tell people what I know, but I find that, you know, the spirit will never cease to surprise me. I always say, expect the unexpected, because when you think you know it, there's something else to know it. You know, there's a lot more to know, but they never cease to amaze me as well, because I'm like, I embrace it like a child at Christmas. I'm in awe of them, you know, and I'm quite blessed, and I'm quite thankful now, because I had to come to terms with it, and it took a few decades to come to terms with the fact that this is who you are, and this is what you're going to do, and this is your personality. Because I say, oh, it was just part of my personality, which I thought it was, but it wasn't. It was something that that I had to learn, the fact that it's a communication that comes down from a higher realm, but it's also, it comes from the heart chakra, and
Yes.
it's when you focus on the heart chakra, that's
Absolutely.
where and love has the power, as Albert Einstein says. Love has the greatest power, and it's in that vibration of love that we are able to receive. That's why we create all these prayers and all these religious, you know, different factions. They're all based on love, basically, because I mean, Jesus was a teacher of love, so is Buddha, everybody else was. You know, I love Albert Einstein and his science of, you know, what he discovered, but his spirituality went hand in hand. And I love discovering the science and the spirituality, because they just complement one another. You know, think about all the famous people that have been inspired, all the creations, how we've evolved in a physical way, in a scientific way. It's all come from a thought somewhere, and that thought, a bit like Da Vinci was, you know, painting helicopters 400 years before they were invented. You know, who planted that thought in his head? All our thoughts are, 99% of them are inspired by spirit, because we're spiritual beings making a connection and learning at the same time.
Angela, I'd love to encourage people to go to your website, for everybody watching and everybody here, that you're available for readings, you're available for any mentoring, whether you want to learn, you know, want to practice your skill and hone your skills, and spending time with you as I have last year over the 6 weeks that we were working together. I can highly recommend you. So, and so AngelaMcGhee.com, AngelaMcghee.com. I hope I got that right. And your phone number and all the ways to be able to contact you are there. You're contactable through Facebook and through email, of course. And you can always contact me if you want to get in contact with Angela. I have Jennifer Anderson here who's put her hand up. Jennifer.
Thank you, Georgia, for putting this together, and thank you, Angela. This has been eye-opening and really enjoyable. So I have a question based on something you just shared about being very surprised, how like you can still be surprised, and like spirit surprising you. Could you talk a little bit about the evolution? Is it that like the communication just gets clearer or crisper, or like how is it that? Because to me, when you talk about like what you've experienced, all of that would be surprising if I experienced that, right? You know, like as it like deepens or whatnot. But in what way would you have been surprised after you're like initially having these experiences or this gift, the clarity?
I see life as a fabric. And there are spiritual threads that make that fabric. It's all intertwined. And when I was a child and they said to me I was going to write a book and tell the world, you know, I got into my 20s and going, oh, when am I going to write this book then? You know, I do talk to them quite, what's the word, very down to earth the way I talk to them. It's a bit like when they send me things, and they always send me what I need, never what I want, but what I need. If you're going through difficult times, they will send you the tools to cope with those difficult times. So it's yeah. It's not necessarily the, you know, the lottery numbers, although I have had a relationship with the lottery to prove a point. But anyway, but as you say, when they told me I was I'm going to write this book, I didn't think I've wrote 4 so far, but I've got about another 10 there to come out. And every week there is something special that goes on that becomes a sequel, or it becomes a new chapter to a previous experience. But you see, when I thought about writing the book, my guide just said, talk about the best experiences from each decade of your life. Then you will see the progression of the gift with the experience as a child, my understanding of it, how I used it subconsciously or consciously, or should we say super spiritually, because I do believe there are 3 parts to the brain. There's the, you know, the conscious, subconscious, and the spirit part. And funny enough, I've been to lectures about that by a woman called Dr. Caroline Leaf, who was a South African neurologist, and she talks about the scientific part. She's also a Christian, and she talks about the spirit part of the brain. She's even got a code for it. And then, see, because when I was little, I knew something different was happening in my mind, and I thought I must have an extra bit to the brain. That's how my childlike thought was thought. But when I met this woman decades later, she was telling me about that 3rd part of the brain in a scientific way. And I thought, oh, you've just answered some of my childhood questions that I used to question about myself, because I knew I was different. You see, the sad thing about that, I mean, there's a sadness about it, because things were happening to me. I just wanted to be like every other child, because every child does. They all want to be the same. They don't want to be treated different or look different or said you're different. You know, every child is crying out for equality, to be loved, to you know, all the same. But, you know, life doesn't happen that way. So, so there was all this going on in my childhood, spiritually speaking. And then, of course, how it dipped in and out my life, and how I was able to say, I must have been a strange child, actually, because I used to say strange things to strangers, but whatever I said, it was like giving them an electric shock, and they've gone, why she said that, you know, because it made perfect sense. But I didn't understand what was happening. Everybody laughed about it, and I'd get a pat on my head going, oh, you're just like your grandmother, you know, because my grandmother was a very gifted lady, or shall we say a very knowing lady. And somebody says, is it genetic, or is it, you know, a gift at birth? I said, it could be an element of both, because again, when you look back on what we know now, the DNA will tell us that. Get the DNA of my grandmother, and a lot of her cells are in my body. So a lot of her gift is with me, but I've also been able to have that soul connection to her, which is, you know, an added bonus, basically. So yeah, so she's been a guide to me as well. But, you know, it's knowing the difference, as I said, is it comes with experience. And the more you open yourself up, the more you'll be shown. It's as simple as that. It's like making an agreement, have a chat to God and the spirit realms. Let me be your instrument. Make me an instrument of your peace. The prayer of St. Francis. You know, he talks about channels. Make me a channel of your peace. That's what we are. We're all channels. It's something so natural, or should we say spiritually natural. It's just that science and westernization has just squashed it, basically. But I think the easiest thing is go back to your roots, go back to some kind of, even if it's not that you fully agree with a church, it doesn't matter, whatever organization, whatever belief system you had at the very beginning of your life as a child, go back and explore that growing knowledge that was given to you, or go back and explore the elders around you, that what they were saying to you, and start question everything. It's like I must have been a very questioning child, and I must have took everything, I embraced everything, really. There was a time in my life when I look back now, and I think I added it to one of the latest books, because obviously I added 2 books together to make the 4th book, because there was a sequel to a lot of the chapters. But when I look back, and I think that I lived in a convent as a child. I was in a convent care home as a small child, and I used to be regimented in order, being traipsed under the statue of Our Lady. And as a child, because of they used to lock me up, actually, because I used to have screaming temper tantrums, and it didn't conform. I didn't conform to the child that they could suppress. I must have had a fighting spirit in me, so they suppressed me. They locked me up, and when they released me after I'd sobbed for hours, they took me out. And I remember being trailed past the statue of Our Lady, and I swore in my little child's mind, I looked at her and I swore the statue smiled at me. And when she smiled, this lovely feeling of peace went throughout my body. And in my traumatic times as an adult, when I've been kneeling and praying, that feeling has come over me. And priests and other people in the church would say, that's the gift of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's come down and calmed you down. And that was my first experience of the Holy Spirit, was when I walked past that statue as a child, when I reckon she smiled at me because I'd stopped crying and I was able to get out. But, there's moments like that. And then I didn't understand what was happening to me. But it was only as an adult looking back, I realised, yeah, the priest has told me that. And I said that happened to me when I was a child, and it confirmed. You get confirmation all the time on your thoughts that you thought weren't a fact, but you'll get future confirmation about those childhood facts, which is, a greater picture, really.
It's so funny. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go on. I just wouldn't swap it for the world,
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's so funny how we search for answers, and sometimes it's not for years. And you just answered a question. I had an experience, God, maybe 8 years ago. It's all kind of a blur. I don't remember how long ago, but I was in fits of trauma. I mean, wailing, like where you're sucking up your bottom lip, you're crying so hard. Yeah. And I just had a hard conversation with the guy I was dating at the time. And anyway, it just spun me. And I remember thinking, I got to get it together. I got to get on the train and go like home to Easter. But I just was like inconsolable. And it was very unlike me. But at any rate, I was in fits. And all of a sudden, I felt this massive energy come down on me. And I had never experienced anything like that since, like before or since. And it just calmed me and soothed. And I stopped in my tracks looking around like, what was that? It was amazing. Of course, I'm like grasping, and I thought, man, I must have used up a lot of karma just to have that calm. Like, I don't know who took mercy on me, but it was very strange. And
it was very the universal God energy force. I've been on the phone when I've had a traumatic phone call of bad news, and it was like a steel shutter just came down, just went down my body, and it enabled me to go into autopilot and cope with what I had to cope with. So, and when I explained, I said, I used to run all my experiences. I'd run it under the nose of the local priest saying, Father, what would you say about this? And they'd come up with that explanation. They go, it was it was the Holy Spirit that was taking away everything and making you cope. And I thought, well, if that's what you call it, I mean, there's a different label. Going somewhere else, it's an energy force. But same label, coming from the same source, because it's healing, it's making you feel better, and you're able to cope. So and then you're able to pass on that knowledge and that experience. Like we've just shared that experience. You've had a similar experience, and I've put these labels on it, but it's the same labels. It's still the same understanding, because it's coming from the same source, basically. The God energy force.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Angela, we've come to our time together. I want to remind, maybe not everybody's aware, but Angela's calling us from the UK, and it is literally midnight. Would that be right?
Midnight.
So you've really, we have to commend you for your.
One of my children have come in drunk through that door. I'm in the kitchen because my son has come back from America. He's out with his sisters celebrating, and I was expecting him, and I said, when you arrive home, do not come in the kitchen. And I thought we're going to fall through the door, had too much, a bit worse for the wear. And of course, it hasn't happened. They're still celebrating. So I'm expecting the full force coming through the door in the early hours of the morning.
I thought the pubs closed at 11. They don't close at 11 anymore?
No, not at all. No, not now. You can still find somewhere to drink. No, they'll be rolling in at 2 or 3 o'clock, and I'll be fine.
Good for them.
It's funny, isn't it? Angela, you still worry about them, thinking they haven't come home yet.
No.
So,
use your site to find out where they are.
I want to say, bless you all, and thank you all for listening and making that connection, because all it is the love connection that connects us all. God bless you, and may you go. I always do, like I say.
Thank you so much.
May the force be with you.
It's the second time someone said that to me today, and to all of us. Thank you so much.
May the force be with you,
and also with you.
And with you.
And with you. Thank you so much.
Someday, hopefully, we'll make another connection.
Yes, well, if you want a reading with Angela, you want to keep in contact with Angela, angelamcgee.com. I've put it in the comments section of the YouTube. Angela, thank you so much. It's been such an honor, such a wonder to be in your energy again. Thank you so much.
I've been so honored to meet you all, and take that from my heart.
Oh, thank you. Thank you to everybody watching. Thank you to all who came, and a wonderful demonstration of contact with spirit. Thank you.
And thank you, Georgia.
Thank you, Georgia.
A great night.
Angela.
Thank you, Georgia.
So beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Special lady. Thank you.